I'm Michael Harrison. Welcome to our Talkers Media video podcast, Up Close, Far Out, a program for communications professionals, pop culture aficionados, political junkies, media freaks, science enthusiasts, fans of radio, followers of technology, and the philosophically curious. If you find this show to be of interest and value, please subscribe to it and give it a like. Our guest this week is a radio talk show host heard on one of the industry's largest and most prestigious platforms, WABC New York. And beyond that, he is a remarkably successful businessman, a self-made billionaire who came to America with his family from Greece at 6 years of age and grew up in West Harlem and played on the sidewalks of New York. Fast forward, he made his mark and a large fortune in the grocery business, the energy industry, and in real estate. He attained great stature in both the Democratic and Republican parties and mounted a formidable campaign for mayor of New York. He loves baseball and has gone on to have a financial interest in the Staten Island New York Yankees Farm Club. And a lover of radio and a talk show host, he became the owner of WABC and its associated platforms in broadcasting and syndication. He's also written a cool book, How Far Do You Want to Go? Lessons from a Common Sense Billionaire. Our guest this week is the one and only John Catsimatidis. Let's jump right into it. John Catsimatidis, it's so good to have you on the program. I just read your book for about the fourth time, and at the end, there's a place that says Counsel by Catsimatidis, and you give, I think, 16 basic rules on how far do you want to go, Lessons from a Common Sense Billionaire, the name of your book. And the 16th one says, the last of the list says, have fun. So I got to ask you, are you having fun?
Well, yes, I am having fun because a lot of the companies I bought in the last few years is for the purpose of having fun, not necessarily for the purpose of making money. One of them being WABC Radio. And we took WABC Radio from number 28 in the Nielsen ratings for the tri-state area. And Nielsen tells us now we're almost the number one AM radio in the country, and we plan to go international. And we're going to be, right now we are in 173 countries and 50 states. But we haven't marketed those countries yet. But I guess I had a couple of dreams. My dream was to be better than Walter Cronkite, because 92% of the people believed in Walter Cronkite. And right now, nobody believes anybody about anything. And number two, radio-wise, I wanted to be bigger than the BBC. So that's a big enterprise. And my second business that we bought or got involved in is when the New York Yankees a few years ago called me up and said, we want you to be our partner in a minor league team in Staten Island. I don't know anybody that says no to the New York Yankees. The Yankees want to be my partner. I say, yes, I will be your partner. And again, we want to make it a successful minor league team. Staten Island loves the Yankees. And we're the minority team or the minor league team of the New York Yankees, or one of them. I love baseball. I was a Yankee fan since my grandfather took me to see the Yankees. I was about 6 years old, 1954, 1955. And I remember I sat in the upper bleachers. I'm sure the tickets were at least $6 then.
Oh yeah, in the old Yankee Stadium, or one of the old Yankee.
Yes,
stadiums.
The old Yankee Stadium, and
Exactly.
I loved it. Being a kid from Harlem, and the grass in Yankee Stadium was so green. I never saw anything like that. Grass being that green.
That's an
So
old story. That's a story a lot of people share growing up watching baseball on black and white television, which had one camera, and you never saw the baseball players' faces, let alone you never knew who your stars were. Only the baseball cards you could tell what they looked like. You just saw these guys in a one camera shot, black and white. And then when you got to go to the first ball game, you're coming through the tunnel. Everybody says that. Of course, today's kids wouldn't say that because they grow up with color. They don't even know what black and white is. But when you first see that grass in full living, delicious green, it's shocking and you never forget it. And the same is with
absolutely.
you.
I never forgot how green that grass was, and that was, I would say, it was a shock to me.
Mhm.
And I remember Mickey Mantle coming to bat, and my grandfather saying to me, "I like that guy." I remember his words, and then I became a big Yankee fan and a big baseball fan, and I remember the uh, the 1962 Yankees. I can still name them by base and how well they did. You know,
Bobby Richardson,
Bobby
Elson
Richardson,
Howard.
Jimmy Kubek, Clete Boyer, Moose Barron,
Yeah.
and we had three catchers: Yogi Berra,
Right.
Elston Howard,
Right.
and Johnny Blanchard.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
And
Isn't
the
that crazy?
outfield, we had who do we have? We had Mickey Mantle in center,
Roger
Hector
Maris.
Lopez, and oh my God, Hector Lopez. And who's the third one?
It was Roger
Norm,
Maris.
Roger Maris eventually, but before that was Norm Sebring.
Maybe. It's hard to remember. Uh, you're talking about a time when I hope this doesn't cause an argument between us or hard feelings, but I was enamored by the Mets, who, of course, were very disappointing. But in the early 60s, I come from Brooklyn. And I'm old enough to remember how devastating it was to the Brooklyn culture, to the people in Brooklyn when the Dodgers left. And of course, the Giants left. And when the Mets came only a few years later, it seemed like an eternity. Um, that was like Christmas. It was very special. Of course, it took another decade before we had the amazing Mets. But were you? I guess you weren't a
I
Mets
I
fan.
will tell you what happened when the Mets came to town. I was already working 7 days a week. What year did the Mets come to town?
I think it was 61 or two. I think it was 62.
I
Maybe,
maybe even later than that.
yeah.
But it was I was working a lot, and I Yankee fan I was. I never got attached to the Mets,
Mhm, mhm.
but so I've always been a Yankee fan. So when I had that phone call, that was I almost fell off my chair.
Yeah. And in those days, and you talk about worldwide WABC, when the Mets left, when the Dodgers left New York and the Giants left New York, the New York fans and the New York kids didn't have a chance to see them on TV anymore. And that was the entire National League. So I remember at night being a radio freak as much as a baseball freak in those days as a kid, similar to you. I would pick up out of town stations. And if you got to hear the St. Louis Cardinals or all these exotic teams from the National League, that was a big deal. Let's switch to something you said before. You were talking about WABC being the top AM station in the country and being heard all around the world. You're obviously talking about your programming stream or streams, podcasts, etc., being heard online. You're not talking about buying new facilities around the world,
No,
are
but
you?
we are syndicated in about 350 different stations around the country. But I am talking about the when I grew up, my transistor radio had how many? Three transistors
Hmm.
in the whole transistor radio, and I used to listen to Cousin Brucey, and I used to listen to WABC. And when uh, now my iPhone 14 that I have has 14.4 billion transistors. So at some point, AM radio is also going to be transitioning to a worldwide operation with your iPhones.
Right. So basically what you're saying is you have an AM station in New York and you are creating programming there that can be exported to the US and around the world through many different platforms.
We got top programming with people that want to hear it. And, it isn't household names like, Bill O'Reilly, and people love it.
Well, you have a lot of New York. You have a lot of New York characters on the air there too. I mean,
characters is correct. I mean, the word characters is correct.
So let me ask you a question. I
want to see what he's a character.
Yeah. Well, how do you find you're in a bunch of businesses? You're in the energy business. You're in the supermarket grocery business. You're now in the sports business. You've been in the politics business and still are in a way because you have a show that deals with politics. And you're in the radio business. These are different cultures. How do you feel hanging with radio people compared to, say, hanging with people in the grocery business? How different are the people in all of these different fields that you interact with?
How do you say? Unusual characters.
Well, they
are. You
are.
want to know something? I enjoy them.
Well, you're an unusual. Do you think that you're an unusual character in a way?
Well, I enjoy people. I enjoy making a difference in the world, and that's why I'm spending so much time on radio. I have a 2-hour show on Sundays, and I have a Monday through Friday show between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, along with my co-host Rita Cosby, and I enjoy making sure the world knows the truth. And the worst thing that could happen is the world not knowing the truth. And I have an obligation. I'm not going to be around 20 years from now, 30 years from now. But I have an obligation to make the world good enough for my kids and my grandkids to be able to live and the way we want them to live.
You mentioned before that people believed Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite was at a time prior to this era in which news operations target certain audiences and tell them what they believe in. It's a different type of a thing. There were fewer outlets. It wasn't as competitive. It was demanding, but it wasn't as competitive.
Well, growing up on television, there was only Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7, ABC, CBS, NBC, and ABC, and then the sub-channels of WPIX and WOR.
Channel 9 was OR. You forgot Channel 5, which was WW. And then there was Channel 13 that became a public station. I remember the same stations. Did you watch $1 Million Movie on Channel 9 when you were a kid?
Absolutely. And $1 Million Movie. Well, there was so many. I mean, there was only a choice of 5, 6, 7 stations, and that was it.
But
now we have a choice of 500 stations.
Right. But I hear all the time people say, we're not going to have people like Walter Cronkite again because he made it a point not to let on what politics he believed on. He didn't endorse candidates. He didn't get political in that way. Is it possible to tell the truth to the world without stepping into the partisanship of politics? Can that be done?
You know how we end every show that we have at 5 o'clock, at 6 o'clock? Truth, justice, and the American way. And we play the Superman theme. And we try to stick as closely to the truth as we understand it as anybody. There are so many lies in Washington that I'm scratching my head. And soon I'm going to be bald headed from all the scratching. I believe that the American people deserve the truth.
Well, one of the sayings that I use all the time, I think I coined it, was don't seek victory at the expense of truth. And
I love that. I love that space. I'll give you a nickel every time I use it.
Well, all right. I'll retire soon. Get out there and start talking. Let's go back to the different fields that you're in, because I think you bring a lot to the table. I know that you like to do the shows on WABC, and your ratings are good, and nobody's complaining about you. So you've succeeded in that. I don't think it would be wise for you to become a pitcher for your Staten Island baseball team at this point, but maybe you can go out there and ump a game or two. But
I don't think I can play center field.
well, don't try, but you can think about it. But you have a different perspective on the economy. As a person who is, I could be interviewing you in a radio show that deals in the food business and the grocery business.
Well, the oil business.
Well, I want to get to that in a second.
Business.
But let's talk about groceries right now. Oil is right there too, because both of them play a major role in the current discussion about inflation. And in the grocery business, and I'm not talking about your operations, and I'm not asking you to talk out of school about your competitors, but it isn't often that somebody has a chance to talk to somebody like you and have a candid discussion about this. How close to the truth are grocery prices for the average family listening to this when they go, oh my God, look at how expensive it is to get coffee, or expensive it is to get meat? Are there shenanigans going on that people should watch out for when it comes to the price of food?
Well, the price of food has gone up tremendously, but there's two prices. There's the national price. They depending on how they want the truth to get out, they'll give you the national price. Then they'll give you the national price without the inner city stores. And then it's the inner city stores. The inner city stores in America, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, well, they're going out of business. New York City, I can speak for New York City a great deal, that almost every drugstore, a lot of drugstores have closed up. Every Rite Aid store has closed up because the amount of theft, the amount of cost of running the business. Remember the old adage that the supermarket makes 2%? The old adage. Well, and the old adage was shrinkage was 1.5%. Well, forget about it now.
Yeah, shrinkage, for those who are watching this and don't know, means product that you lose through people shoplifting.
A large portion of it, but I'm going to add a different perspective to that. In the inner city stores, between shrinkage and between extra security to protect our product, it's 6%. So if you're making 2% and you're losing 6%, that's minus 4. Mm-hmm. Now I'll tell you another adage. Our sales, the sales are down 4%. You know why sales are down 4%? Everything's locked up. Now, do you want to go into a store? You want to go into a store and wait for 20 minutes for a clerk to come over and unlock it for you?
Right. That is, and that's insulting also to the honest shopper.
Yeah.
I find it with razor blades that the cost of razor blades has gone up so high that now they have to lock that up as if it were a prescription drug or something.
Well, that's the problem. So the inner city stores are dying. Between all those factors. And the middle America stores in nice neighborhoods, they're still making a profit. Mm-hmm. But the inner city stores, so that's the difference between national numbers, inner city numbers.
So are you saying that shrinkage is one of the major causes of grocery store inflation?
Shrinkage is one of inflation. No, the major reason for inflation. You want to know that?
Yeah, I want to know everything.
When President Biden became president, day number one, he made the oil business the enemy of the people. He knocked out by executive orders, he knocked out the pipeline. The price of oil when President Trump was there was about $55 a barrel. When he made oil, the enemy of the people, the price of oil went to 100, 110, 120 at one point. So what does that mean? The price of diesel fuel doubled and tripled. The price of gasoline doubled and tripled. The food industry, 70 or 80% of the food industry is dependent on diesel fuel to run their factories, to run to trucks from the factories to the distribution centers, from the distribution centers to the stores. So with the price of oil tripling and the price of diesel fuel tripling, it substantially raised the price of food 30 to 40%.
So energy and food are tied together.
They're tied together.
Very interestingly. I have to ask you one more question about that. Then I want to move on to less political stuff. How did Biden do that? You say he made it the enemy of the people. He caused the inflation. How did he do that?
I believe he had certain commitments that he made to people that helped support him become president. Mm-hmm. And he was supported by the people that wanted electric cars, and electric cars make no sense right now. Mm-hmm. I can understand the hybrid cars where it's a combination of gas and oil, and gas and battery. That makes sense.
Right.
So gas and battery makes sense. Gas alone makes sense, but forcing electric cars on people make no sense at all. And he forced that. He felt the more he killed gasoline cars, then the people supporting him for the electric cars supported him even more.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's move over.
Well, what happened? I'm going to tell you what happened. And
all right.
I was a Bill Clinton Democrat. You know that. I ran Bill Clinton's campaigns.
Well, you do have an interesting history of having risen to the top in the New York area, at least, and nationally as a respected figure in both parties.
And I believe in
aligned with Republicans.
I don't, you know what I tell people? Democrats, Republicans, it's more important to be an American than worry about Democratic Party or Republican Party, and worry about America making it to 2076, the 300th year of our country.
That would be nice, and it'd be nice to see it go beyond that. My problem with that is that everybody seems to think that the way to do that is to have everybody agree with them. That both sides say the same thing. We should all be together. We should all be Americans. Not you guys, but you should be like us.
I try to have common sense.
Yeah.
And right now, common sense is not all that common.
Let's talk about something as we head toward the end of this, because I don't want to keep you longer than I said, unless you want to hang out. And I know with all the stuff you're doing, you're probably busier than I am. But a long time ago, a couple of years ago, I had mentioned to you, we were doing one of our little nostalgia memory lane conversations, and I was telling you how I had a very soft spot in my heart for Coney Island, and that in my growing up, that was Mecca. And you and I are, I think, 3 or 4 days apart in terms of how old we are. We're just about the same age. So you remember the Coney Island.
I feel much older than you.
Maybe you're an older soul. I wouldn't get into a major analysis of that. Let's just say we're both handsome devils.
Okay.
But that being said, I mentioned that I thought I had no idea that you were involved in real estate in Coney Island. I'm not even sure if you still are. I believe you are.
Yes.
I was telling you how I feel that Coney Island is one of the most underpriced, underdeveloped, underpotential beachfront properties in the world. And I remember it was always a kind of a rough and tumble place, not like it went on to be, but it was never, it wasn't Disney World. And you said, well, I have a building. I'm selling condos in Coney Island and all that. So you know about it. Are you still doing that? And do you share my feeling that Coney Island at least was, and it would be so nice to see it come back, is just the perfectly located place to live, to visit, not maybe yet, but Is it heading in that direction? And do you hold the history of Coney Island dear to your heart the way I do in my heart?
I love Coney Island. My people yelled and screamed at me for wanting to build Coney Island. I built twin towers right on the beach in Coney Island. I did the commercials with Coney Island, telling people we're right on the beach, and if you breathe in that ocean air, I guarantee you're going to live 10 years longer. And my lawyers yelled at me for that.
Wow.
And we had the ability. We built two beautiful buildings on the beach in Coney Island. They're doing well. We were supposed to have a ferry, a high-speed ferry going from Coney Island to Manhattan. And then it was all set to go. Mayor de Blasio was pushing it. And they found a rare clam on one side of the bay where you're supposed to build the terminal for the ferry. Because of that rare clam, they shot down the ferry.
Oh my gosh.
And we can build 3 more big buildings there that will cost $1 billion. But I'm holding up on spending that $1 billion because I want to find out who New York City belongs to. Common sense individuals or crazy individuals. And right now, I'll tell you what we just did. We're in the real estate business in a big way. I was in Florida on Monday, the 20 whatever, and we hit the top of the largest, the tallest condominium, tallest building on the west coast of Florida. We built it. It's the most iconic building in St. Petersburg, Florida, the home of the winter seasons of the New York Yankees.
Uh-huh.
And, St. Petersburg is where Margot, my wife's parents lived for the last 40 years, 45 years. St. Petersburg, there's, my line on that. I told you about you breathe in that ocean air, you live to be 10 years longer. St. Petersburg, Florida. There is no earthquakes. There's only been 2, not earthquakes. There is no hurricanes. There's only been 2 hurricanes in the last 100 years. And you know what the Indians used to tell you? The Indian gods are underneath St. Petersburg, wishing them away. Well, the scientific fact is magnetic field underneath St. Petersburg that when the hurricanes come up from Florida, they either zig and they go towards New Orleans, or they zig right and they go towards Fort Lauderdale. But no hurricanes. So and go to 400central.com or whatever. 400 Central is the name of the building in St. Petersburg, Florida, and they're beautiful buildings.
So anybody who lives in St. Petersburg who's been, kind of taken over the coals by the insurance companies because of the danger to the property of hurricanes, they've got something now they can come back with. That, I think most people had no idea that exists.
Well, Mike Gallagher from Salem.
Yeah, he lives in that area.
Me the other day because he lives in St. Petersburg. So I'm going to have a new neighbor someday.
He's a good guy, nice guy. The two of you will get along well. And in conclusion, you get along well with all the broadcasters in New York. You just recently had a party, one of your annual birthday celebrations, and I see that it was attended by many of your competitors. You have and in radio, in many fields like radio, it's difficult to have a good relationship with competitors. You do. What's the secret of that?
What's the secret is I'm not looking to kill anybody. I'm looking to be successful, like politics. If I ever ran for politics again, I'm not killing my competitors. I'm just telling everybody how a better job I'm going to do. So it's up to them to catch up with me. I'm not going to knock them down.
And there you have it. A conversation with John Catsimatidis. You can learn more about this fascinating individual at WABCRadio.com. Up Close, Far Out is a presentation of Talkers Media and a production of Good Phone Communications. I'm Michael Harrison. Our producer is Matthew B. Harrison. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.